Hello to all the curious creatives out there. This is Mike Kepka, the Curious Creative, bringing you another episode of the Curious Creative, the podcast where we talk about results-based video strategies that show ROI for our clients. Today we have with us Nick Sfara, owner of Freedom Digital in Baltimore. He took over the company in 2023 after working in the industry for 15 years before that. On set, he often wears all the hats: production, director, camera ops, sometimes craft services. Says he makes a mean chocolate chip cookie. Nick's work has also been featured in several film festivals, and he holds, ladies and gentlemen, a National Sports Emmy Award for his work on NFL 360, The Gift of Gabba. Last and probably least, he was in a heavy metal band in high school. Nick, how are you doing? It is so good to have you on the show today.
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on The Curious Creative.
You're listening to The Curious Creative with your host and video expert, Mike Kepka. Nick, first things first, what was the name of the heavy metal band?
Oh, this is embarrassing. We went, our street name was RPR because it was called Rice Paper Rhino, and the singer wanted it, and we don't know why.
Got it. And you were a guitar player? Or?
Yeah, I played guitar. We played, I think 3 shows, and then disbanded.
Excellent. That sounds like about as much of a career of music as one could hope to have sometimes.
It was just for fun, yeah.
Nick, we're together on the podcast because we share, I think, a similar concept where we both run production companies and at some point decided we could be offering more for our clients. I started this pivot almost 2 years ago now, where I was starting to figure out what was going to add value to the videos that I was creating. And I teamed up with some people and learned how to track and quantify data that's going to show return for our clients. We use a specific strategy, and it is now really exciting to talk to new clients because we can sort of speak their language. Tell me about your journey. Tell me about where you started your company and how that sort of evolved to where we are today.
Yeah, I think probably similar background. We are just a traditional video production company, mostly commercial and like high-end corporate branding stuff. Before I took over running the show, I was always thinking, we had a lot of one-off clients and a lot of return clients, but it was always, you made a video, you sent it out into the ether. Maybe you got client feedback if you asked for it, like, well, what'd you think, or how did it do? But the clients were always like, oh, we loved it, it was great. Or if it went to an agency, you never heard anything, right? And so I always thought, well, there must be some way to prove like how good it did other than the client likes it, or it looks nice, or it won some industry award, which really means nothing for business results. So I was vaguely interested in like, okay, how can you put in place video tracking? And that's just become easier and easier with the digital tools we have. I just didn't really.
And how has that changed the conversation? I understand you're like me, sort of. I worked with a few clients on this new thing, but you're also in sort of beta form right here, right? So how is that changing the conversation about things you can offer now?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it's almost like when you have these conversations, the stuff that used to be really important is almost like understood now. So like, yes, we will make you a great commercial or brand video or whatever, but let's talk about the more important stuff, right? Which is, what is that going to do for your business or your product or whatever? And you kind of get beyond like the nitty gritty, stuff as just a video vendor, and you're more talking their language on like results and strategy, which I think, elevates us beyond like a gun for hire and more of like a strategic partner, which has infinite more value, I think, to them and helps their job be a lot easier. So,
and who are the people you're pitching to? Are they the marketing directors? Or, I mean, what's interesting for me is that I find myself often so we'll have an informational meeting if somebody is interested in what we're doing. And then part of the earliest request on my part is to say, can we get the decision makers at this call? Because those are the people that really need to understand this strategy so that they can understand why this is like game changing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing to have somebody who isn't on the decision level and then try to describe it, but literally the pitch and how we're describing is such a integral part of it. And the data team that we're working with, at least in my case, I've actually brought them on to sort of discuss that. And it's wonderful. I mean, they have a set of case studies on their website, and they can really talk the game on numbers. They've done it lots and lots of times, and I can just add that to what I'm doing, which is what you said earlier. We know we're going to make good video work, right? How can we speak the language to that marketing person, or probably more important, to the marketing person's boss or the CEO of the company or COO,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the scale of the company or client I'm talking to, right? I mean, it might be impossible to get the chief marketing officer on the line of some huge international whatever, but in that case, I'm usually talking to some sort of like VP of communications or like corporate affairs type person who is like the decision maker for whatever their vertical is. Um, but in smaller companies, yeah, like you said, you might pitch it to whoever's hiring the video person, but you want to get the chief marketing officer on the horn because they will ask the questions. They know to ask the right questions about, like, well, what is the ROI? What is the ad spend? What do they know what the numbers mean? Rather than just kind of dangling a carrot to someone who thinks it's shiny and that's kind of it, right? So yeah, anytime I can, it's trying to. The hardest part is jumping that hurdle from whoever your point of contact is to the like CMO or something like that.
So how I just had this idea. What if, Nick, what if we do like a little roll back to some of your best clients? And what if we were to
Yeah.
role play? You can choose to name them by person or not, just genre is fine. But what if
Sure.
we talk about what you did for them and how we might do that, pitch that a little differently now? Like, what are and maybe we can go back to them and see if, that was something that they needed, right?
Yeah.
Pick a client, roll with
Sure.
it, and then let's see if we can't sort of mock up a little strategy for them and how that might look.
For sure. Yeah. Well, this is one I did pitch and they were super interested. I didn't close, but because they didn't have the budget. But this was recruiting video for a local union shop who was trying to get more people into their apprentice trainee program. Right. So traditionally, yeah, we had made a nice glossy recruiting video for them that lived on their website, and that was it. So we delivered the product, and then that was like a couple years ago. It's still just sitting there. Like, I know it's done nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually, it's interesting, since we haven't talked in a while, and since we did that, I was actually talking with somebody else who works in the union world, which is something I do almost exclusively now, and they were actually talking about the same sort of thing. So I was brainstorming with them how we would pitch on the very same thing. What it turns out
Yeah.
is that there's a lot of people that need these training videos across multiple unions. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people adding incentive to get people doing apprenticeship programs and creating content. Not just the content. I think maybe, were you actually creating the educational stuff, or were you enticing the audience to be a part of the program?
In this case, it was just like a recruiting video. So, it was more like interview style, unscripted. But that's another big client is with like union adjacent. It was for one of the major railroads, developing training materials for them. And same thing, we, delivered the videos, but then it just went into their antiquated, video delivery system to their employees. And like, whether that stuff ever got watched or not, they had no way of knowing,
So, I mean, the way I would look at that now, and this is what I spoke with the guy that I'm hoping to partner with in the coming months, is we're actually looking to make, so we might spend a couple of days creating content and hoping to turn that into not one, but a campaign. I'm working for a nonprofit right now. We created 15 awareness style videos. That's the first attack. We're looking to find our audience and sort of blanket them with 60-second or less videos and get that out to tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And out of that, we are hoping they'll watch at least half of them. And the people that watch half of them, we're going to start to send them the other videos. And so the next layer is consideration stage. And I'm waiting for approval from the client now on, I believe there are 6 or 7 consideration stage videos, which means it's the awareness style stuff is usually you're sort of identifying a pain point. So in the recruitment video for the apprenticeship program, we might be looking for people who are they going to go to college, or are they later in career in the work world and have a hard time finding a job that's going to pay them decent wages, benefits, all the things that unions are, it's built
Yep.
into their system. So we're finding that audience, letting them know there's a lot of people like them. I'm just saying. And then if they watch that, then we send them the next one and we say, hey, these labor organizations, it seems like they have a solution for people just like you, and it's worked out for people. And then the final icing on that cake would be what we call decision stuff, which is strangely where I've seen most of the clients, that's where they think they should start. But those
Yep.
videos are really only meant for what we started out as 200,000 people interested in the pain point awareness video. And now we're looking at 500, 1,500. But those people have now watched that video or a couple of different videos several times and are much more likely to push go on, in this case, it would be sign up for an informational call, sign up for, apply for this program or find out more about it. It's, somebody told me that there was actually, now it used to be 3 or 4 touch points. Now it could be 8 to 12. So we send the different kinds of videos out multiple times over that, right? I wonder if you could reach out to those people again and see if they'd be interested in it. You know, sometimes it's overcoming the old school ways. I'm having this issue right now with another organization, but that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah, well, right. And that's what, especially when it's, whoever is making the decision, if they've been in industry a while or they're not kind of up on kind of modern marketing techniques, then they're used to seeing just like the McDonald's commercial or the car ad on TV, right? And that's pure decision stage stuff. It's got like, here's the product, here's the call to action. They think that's what sells the thing, but we, are trying to prime the pump, right? We don't, we don't need to spend all of the money to show millions of people that decision stage ad that'll only work for a tiny slice. We want to find that tiny slice and then feed them that. And you say it's so much more efficient.
Now with that recruitment video, tell me how you approached time frame for actually pre-producing and shooting that content. Did you plan it and then shoot that in one day, or was it over a couple of days? How'd that go down?
Yeah, we knew we were trying to pitch more work off the back end, so we wanted to build a library. So that ended up being, I think, like a 3-day shoot. It was probably 3 weeks of pre-pro. And then, we spent a day doing interviews with all their key people. And then we spent one day doing B-roll in their training facility, and another one, I think it might've been out in the field or something like that, just to get variety. So we built a huge library of sound, like way more sound bites than you would ever use in our 3-minute video, and way more cool B-roll than you could shove into the bag too. So the content is there. Like we could eat, like you said, you could cut 15 awareness stage videos out of it if you wanted to. And that was kind of the hope. Yeah.
I mean, often that's when I explain how production works, because a lot of times people just have no idea how, oh my God, is this going to cost $2 million or is this going to be $2,000?
Yeah.
And so I say that a lot of the cost is that labor to get our crew there for those 3 days.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, your pre-pro work, that was probably you producing on a line I'm sure you put down, but the actual day where you bring 2 to 9 people on set is where the line items cost. So if the client is spending that money on that already, to add some extra edit time to make those extra videos, and then to add what I really see as the campaign that pays for itself, is like, it should be a no-brainer. And I'm really excited to hope, to like get clients to understand that they've already paid for it. So why shouldn't we add 0.5 more and crank it up for you guys?
Well, and like interview style stuff is like a perfect model for that, because you always come away with stuff that's really good, but maybe doesn't fit this specific deliverable or is too long-winded or whatever. And that stuff ends up just sitting on a hard drive, never seeing the light of day. Whereas that could be its own,
as opposed to stuff that's on a script. Is that what you're comparing it to? Or
well, yeah, I mean, for me, like if I do a lot, I work a lot with kind of like non-actors, non-media savvy people, a lot of non-scripted, like real people stuff, right? I do this a lot for another major client, which is like a pharmaceutical company. And we do these like vignettes of like actual patients on their products, right? And so we'll spend, I'll do a 2 hour long interview with them, and the final piece will be 60 seconds, right? Well, there's all this other great stuff in there. If you were thinking of more than one deliverable, then it's a no brainer. You've already got it. You don't have to go reshoot.
Nick, what else is going on? What are the other kind of things you're aspiring to do with your business? As you know, I was in Orlando this weekend for a different client, and I was speaking to a young student. If you're listening, here's your note. And she's getting ready to join the workforce, right? As a person in the filmmaking industry, I said, if I could have done one thing when I was your age back in college, I would have taken a business class. How like
Yeah.
I worked for a very idealistic kind of work. I was a photojournalist at a newspaper. It's very specific. I went to school to be that. I did not want to run a
Mm,
business. So when I
yeah.
left in 2015, I had no idea. How did you come into this? And how did you get over whatever it is you had to get over to make something that's going to be successful?
Yeah. I basically had to learn on the job, kind of thrown into the deep end and try to swim. Luckily, I had a good team of support people around me to help. But I think the other thing is like I had to just get out of my own way because, like you said in the intro, like I've done like everything on set. I've done all the post, and so it's tough to let those things go and delegate and actually just like lead or steer the ship. You know what I mean? So once I started surrounding myself with talented people and trusting them to do a good job, things got a lot easier. It opened up my time. I was able to focus on things that are more important, for the business.
How did you pivot to that? Because I honestly, I am still a very small, very low overhead process
Sure.
because I'm scared to death that I won't be able to pay somebody. And the way things are going right
Yeah.
now, I see it on the horizon. But how do you know when you can really support somebody else on your team reliably and feel comfortable at it?
Well, I cheated because when I took over the company, it already had, 2 decades of success under its belt, and we already had a small staff. So I walked into it knowing,
So buy a
based on
successful
past
business, I
performance.
think is what
Yeah, buy a
Nick's,
successful business.
that's what Nick's line is.
Well, the other thing is I was the first employee of the business too, like 15 years prior or whatever, or 10 years, whatever it was. So like we've built it up together. It's not all.
So you'd worked at the business. So you were
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Those
yeah. I'd
15
worked at
years
the business.
prior,
I'd seen
you
the
were
inner
there.
workings.
Is that?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I didn't get
But
that. But that's so you knew it
but
better than anybody else at that point, aside from the
yeah,
owner
but
that was no
it's
longer.
tough. Honestly, the biggest thing I've done, I think, on that, and because I'm at the same point now, is like I'm over capacity. Do I need to bring on a new person? What kind of person is that?
Hmm.
And like when it's slow, that sucks, to have another salary going. So I think one of the most important things I've done is brought on a like basically part-time contracted like operations team, who is good at just running businesses in general. And they are able to like analyze our performance and suggest things, and they are looking at, okay, what is true capacity, and what is your billing, and like what are the warning signs basically that you're in need of this person, and do you have the revenue to support it. So but it's tough in our industry when you're only doing project based stuff. It's a roller coaster up and down of cash flow or whatever. So I think that's another reason why getting into video strategy and being more of a strategic like campaign level partner with a client, those are longer term contracts and longer, bigger horizons.
Yeah, that's my hope, to bring it into much more of a retainer model, which is strangely exactly where I am now with these 2 or 3 new clients that are actually working on this stuff. It seems like you can't do it project to project. The whole thing is built on one that builds on another that builds on another. And then it is what I've always hoped for, which is building this relationship with the client in a way that they trust me more. They're going to trust me over somebody else who makes a pitch to them because now we've been working together for 6 months.
I mean, there's clients I've had for years and years, and I know they're going to have something for me next month, but it's nicer to have that like written down and guaranteed.
Nick, this has been great, kind of short and sweet. My guests always leave us with some golden nugget. What do you got for us?
My golden nugget is a proverb that I think I invented. And I always say, good ice cream should be eaten with a small spoon.
Boom. You gotta give me some more than that. What was the explanation there? Sounds great, but what do you mean by that?
I mean, if you got something good, slow down, take time, enjoy it. For me right now, that's my 5-year-old son, watching him grow up, and it's just the greatest thing.
That's great. I feel that Zen balance in life. I'm all about that as well. Curious creatives out there, you have now wasted another 24 minutes with me yapping with our pal Nick here. Hope to see you again at the next episode. Nick, thanks so much for being on the show. We'll catch you later.
Thanks for having me, Mike.